Good morning, everybody. This is Mike Brennan at the National Hurricane Center with the Thursday, September 29th update on Tropical Storm Ian. It's just after 11:30 Eastern Time. We're seeing the center of Ian emerging off the east central coast of Florida, just to the east of Cape Canaveral. Looks very different than yesterday. All the rain and wind, most of the hazardous impacts are now north of the center. We've had flash flooding, in some cases catastrophic flash flooding across portions of central and east central Florida this morning. Heavy rainfall spreading up the northeast coast of Florida. Affecting places like Flagler Beach, St. Augustine, working their way up into Jacksonville. We've seen strong wind gusts this morning. Places like Daytona Beach have gusted up to 70 miles an hour. We just had a 74-mile-per-hour wind gust at Marineland. And this onshore flow here is pushing storm surge into portions of northeast Florida coastline, where we have a storm surge warning in effect. So it's going to be a very, very rough another 12 to 18 hours for portions of the northeast Florida coast with the tropical storm force winds, gusts to hurricane force, life-threatening storm surge inundation of 3 to 5 feet above ground level expected in much of this area as well. In terms of the forecast, if we switch over here, we'll look at the new forecast updated this morning for Ian. The biggest change is we're now forecasting Ian to regain hurricane status. Right now, our estimate of the maximum winds is about 70 miles per hour, so already just shy of hurricane intensity. We're forecasting Ian to become a hurricane overnight tonight and be a hurricane as it approaches the coast of South Carolina on Friday. We've now issued a hurricane warning for the entire coast of the state of South Carolina with the anticipation that there are going to be hurricane conditions experienced somewhere in that area during the day on Friday. We also have a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning in effect for the Georgia coast and the northeast Florida coast down through Flagler County. We're expecting tropical storm conditions there. Could have winds near hurricane force. Hurricane conditions are possible there, so it could be a very rough 24 hours in those areas as well. We've also extended tropical storm warnings northward into North Carolina, all the way up to Duck, including the Outer Banks, portions of Pamlico and Albemarle Sounds. And so we are expecting Ian to move inland over South Carolina late Friday and then gradually dissipate over the topography of the southern Appalachian Mountains as we go from Saturday into Saturday night. But Ian's going to bring widespread impacts. I talked about the storm surge, but that's ongoing now in northeast Florida. We have a storm surge warning in effect for places like Jacksonville, the St. Johns River, Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. So the entire coast of Georgia and South Carolina under a storm surge warning with the danger of life-threatening inundation from storm surge there. We have a storm surge watch in effect for much of the coast of North Carolina as well, for the potential of life-threatening storm surge inundation there as well. In terms of how much inundation we're expecting, the highest storm surge is going to be in this area between Edisto Beach and South Santee River. That includes places like Charleston. We could see storm surge inundation as much as 4 to 7 feet above ground level. So I'm 6 feet tall. That's water basically up to my chest to over my head. So if you live in one of these storm surge evacuation zones and you've been asked to leave by your local authorities, please do so. We could see 4 to 6 feet of inundation, places like northeast Florida, Jacksonville, up to Savannah, and also 3 to 5 feet in places like Myrtle Beach and the upper South Carolina coast, with the potential for 2 to 4 feet of inundation all the way up through the North Carolina coast as well. The other big story is going to be heavy rainfall. The moisture from Ian is going to interact with a front and enhance rainfall values across portions of coastal and inland sections of the Carolinas, coastal Georgia, all the way up into the mid-Atlantic states, into Virginia and West Virginia over the next couple of days. This area here is showing the flash flood risk over the next 3 days, and the highest risk is ongoing now in portions of northeast Florida. Then the focus on Friday into Saturday is going to shift into much of the state of South Carolina, places like Charleston, southwestern North Carolina, Charlotte, getting over towards the Asheville area here in the red. That's a moderate risk of flash flooding. There's a broader risk of flash flooding as well for almost the entire state of North Carolina, eastern Georgia, and working its way up into Virginia. We could see widespread rainfall totals of 4 to 8 inches across Georgia, coastal South Carolina, isolated amounts as high as 12 inches, with isolated rainfall totals as high as 8 inches in parts of western North Carolina. So that's going to create the potential for significant flash flooding in some locations in these areas. So we're really looking at multiple hazards developing over the next several days and advancing into the Carolinas with the potential expected hurricane force winds somewhere along the South Carolina coast, life-threatening inundation, and the potential for dangerous flash flooding. So it's going to be a rough couple of days here. We're going to see Ian move from offshore of the Florida coast up towards South Carolina over the next 24 to 36 hours. So everybody in these areas needs to prepare. Today, you're going to have a few hours, but you can see the size of Ian's wind field. The tropical storm force winds extend out over 400 miles from the center. So we have tropical storm force winds already just offshore of the coast of South Carolina. So conditions are going to deteriorate as we go through today and tonight. Before I wrap up, I do want to emphasize for folks that experienced the catastrophic conditions in Southwest Florida yesterday, the storm surge, the wind, we're going to have widespread power outages for multiple days to weeks. So please stay safe after the storm. Be careful if you're using a generator. Make sure you use that generator properly. We lose a lot of people after big hurricanes like Ian to things like post-storm accidents, cleanup, traffic accidents, medical issues, cardiac arrest. Please take care of yourself. Don't go back into areas that you left unless you've been allowed back in by local officials. A lot of times there's standing water, dangerous chemicals in that water. It's not a safe environment to be in. So please take care of yourself and your loved ones. And for everybody, please stay safe during the remainder of what we're going to expect to be Hurricane Ian's impacts in the southeastern U.S. over the next couple of days. Stay tuned for more information from the National Hurricane Center. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Brennan.